What's going on, YouTube? Early morning, getting ready to head to the gym. Some of you are going to relate to this. Some people, maybe not. I don't know. Where can I start? First, let me tell you why I started YouTube. I started YouTube because I couldn't relate to most people. I didn't say that statement to be arrogant. Here's what I mean by that. The things I was into, like, I would find myself being crazy curious. I'll be up to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning studying why Nikola Tesla never got married. Never had sex. Vegetarian. Sir Isaac Newton. Never had sex. Vegetarian. And trying to figure out, was there something to that made them successful and experts in their field? You can't have that conversation with everybody. And people who can't have that conversation here's what people would do. They'll try to label you and say, man, this guy's crazy when you talk about some weird stuff. Because what they're doing is trying to bring you down to their level. And if you don't relate to them on that level, you're weird. So I literally had to create an online world of people that I can relate to and bring that demographic in of people who could understand what I was talking about and take it from there. You know, I talked about this morning. I remember, like, for those people who know me, they would say that I'm not really a people person, which I am, because I come in here every freaking day and motivate. But here's the part that bothers me about people. My wife and I had went out one day, and it was this couple there. And I don't really like meeting people outside. And here's why, because you know how people do the interview process. Tell me about yourself. So I remember telling this guy, and we had just came back from China. And I was like, and this is a black guy. And you're going to see why I'm saying this for a second. And not to say that all black people are this way. But he was like, so what's your angle, man? What's been going on? I said, oh, man, I just got back from China. And he said, stop lying. And I sat there for a second. And here's what was literally going through my mind. Should I agree with him? And go down to that lower form of thinking and say, you're right, man. I should stop lying. Or should I just say, why do you think I'm lying? By asking that question, it would show that his form of thinking only goes to a certain level, and he can't think beyond that, which is in fact why he thinks I'm lying. Because he can't see himself going to China. And, you know, we talked about that today in our book club. You know, on your website, you should have these symbols of the things that you've done. And it's not bragging. It's just letting cold traffic know who you are, what you've done. Getting people to know, like, and trust you. If you interview people like MJ DeMarco and Grant Cardone and the Gary V and things like that, people will start to wonder, like, hold on, this guy has interviewed the heavyweights. And how did he get a chance to do that? So maybe I need to listen to this guy. That's why you do it. But I literally had to stop talking to people because people were always trying to put you in a box. I give you another example. Some African Americans do it now. There's a statement out there where some African Americans will say, because my wife is Caucasian, they'll immediately say, oh my gosh, why do you have a Caucasian wife? And they would think, put you in a box, that all the good brothers are marrying white women. First of all, that's a low form of thinking. You got to keep in mind, I've been in the military. I've been in Somalia. I've been to Cuba. I've been to Thailand. I was exposed to all different types of races. I've traveled all over. I find people to be with that can relate to that. And I don't care what color you are, because if God created us all, what's wrong with going with another race? But if you try to have a conversation like that to people who only think here, they're thinking like, oh, that they understand why people marry outside of their race. It's a low form of thinking. And they probably would stay here, but they would never explore the fact that most African Americans have not traveled outside of the United States. Most African Americans, their form of travel is going to Jamaica, going to Cancun on a cruise with other people. To me, that's comfort traveling. Going to a resort that's surrounded by barbed wire. Sitting around at the resort with people who are from your same country. Traveling to me is getting your hands dirty. Going outside of the gate. Finding out how to speak the language. How do you say, como se dice? When I was in Nicaragua, one of the first phrases that I learned, this is a tip for anybody that travels, you don't speak the language. You would, pick up a water bottle and say, look, como se dice? Como se dice means, how do you say this? I'm constantly in learning mode. Oh, agua. Oh, okay, agua. Okay. That's how you learn the language. First phrase you need to learn, how do you say this? Because I want to immerse myself in someone's culture. So just by me approaching life like that, I don't relate to most people. Because most people are afraid. Most people live in their comfort zone. So when they live in their comfort zone, they come up with these dumbass phrases or this dumbass thinking of what they think life is. And I don't want to hear that watered down version. So I literally had to come online to find people who were educated enough, who picked up a book, who had passports with stamps in it, and really understood life, just to have a conversation. You see? But when you come to me with all these little boxes of because you're in a box. You haven't lived. They say the average American usually reads one book after high school. But I literally have 100 or more books in my Audible account, in my Kindle. I just bought a book this morning. And it's not to say that I'm better, but here's my approach. My approach is I want to be better than I was yesterday. I fell off for a second. I was scrolling back. What I was saying was I want to be better than I was yesterday. That's the way you should approach life. If you're not approaching life from that angle, 10 years from now, you're still going to have the beer belly. 10 years from now, you're still going to have the same form of thinking. And when people say little statements like, man, you've changed. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? Isn't life constantly trying to become a better version of yourself? If I hear a person say that statement, man, you've changed, you're not the same anymore, that's our last conversation. I can't be around some comfort zone type thinking. And that is not being arrogant. Right? I go to places and I have people that say, hey, we should connect. I approach that like a VIP line because I don't connect with anybody. I don't know what form of energy you have. I don't know what your thinking is. And if you can relate to what I'm saying, just chime in. Let me hear what you guys think about this, because you are the one hearing what I'm saying. I don't know anything about your life. Okay, my man Jetson Jefferson says, absolutely. You're constantly supposed to change for the better. I agree with that. Right? And some of you probably have created an online community and come online because you can't relate. You're that so-called weird person. You know what weird is? Einstein was considered weird. right? But Einstein, it's so funny about what true intelligence was. Einstein was called a dumbass by all of his instructors who were supposed to be teachers. But we know about Einstein, but we don't know about his teachers. That is so puzzling to me. If I was told people to close their eyes today and ask any human being who's the most intelligent person, most people would say Einstein. But in teachers' eyes, they said, one of Einstein's teachers said he was the most, like, the dumbest individual he's ever seen. It's crazy. It's crazy. E equals MC squared. Yeah. Let me give you a statistic. 3% of people control 97% of the wealth. 3%. So if all these people are walking around with the so-called answers to life, money isn't everything, work a job, go to college and all this other kind of stuff, and 3% control most of the wealth, are majority of the people wrong? One of the best phrases that I've heard, and I follow it in my life. If you go to a stoplight right now, there'll be 2 lanes, and let's say people are turning left. I do it all the time here. If you see a lot of cars that are piled up on the right, all you got to do is go in the left lane. There's only a few cars right there, because what a majority of people are doing is probably wrong. You need to do the opposite. 3% of people control 97% of the world. When I started YouTube, most people were like, that are around the local area, man, why you do YouTube? Can't explain it to you. If I have to explain it to you, you don't understand. Look, Russell Brunson, who owns ClickFunnels, he makes some money. On average, and this number is probably higher, $600,000 to $700,000 a month. And on Thanksgiving, you have people that will literally be sitting around playing this hourly game. How much you make an hour? How much you make an hour? When he was doing YouTube videos, when he was hanging out with his friends up there and, doing all this stuff, what are you doing this internet thing? Because there was a time that he was making only $1,000 a month. I don't even think it was that high. And his wife was holding it down. And he was just constantly getting better, $600,000 to $700,000 a month. So let's say you're making that kind of money and a person comes to you with that fact check that they're trying to do on Thanksgiving, where everyone's like, oh, I'm an engineer and I'm this, whatever. And they say, well, what do you do? I'm an internet influencer. I created a software. Well, how much money do you make an hour? An hour. I don't look at wealth as an hourly thing, because when you use time to make money, you're at a disadvantage. I'm going to say that again. When you use time to make money, you're at a disadvantage. Some people will get that later. So, are you who you say you are? Is one of the very reasons why I don't have many friends on a personal level close. Like some people look at it like, if you don't have a lot of friends, that's a disadvantage for you. No, it's a positive thing. And the reason why is because you got to be careful. You can't just if people are looking at life from that way and they're trying to, because one thing I notice about people is that as soon as you fall in that weirder category, here comes these comfortable people that are always trying to change you. Man, you need to stop spending so much time online and watch this TV show. Man, you need to come on down here and drink, man, and have some fun in life. How do you know that what I'm doing is not fun? How do you know that I'm not approaching life? I could have weight goals, and I know that going to a bar would actually interfere with your muscle gain. And if you look at most successful bodybuilders, they don't drink alcohol. If you notice that most crimes and DUIs and all this stuff and money wasted is happening at the bar. My friend best friend, who literally called me up years ago and said he gave me 2 weeks and said, hey, man, I'm going to China. I got a guy that I work with, and he's going to give us a tour. And I had 2 weeks to make the decision, and I went to China. That guy, he works a job. He has 4 pieces of real estate, and he has, his like 3 businesses on the side. He's got $1 million in his 401k account, and he's 44. There are people who are in their 60s who have a fraction of that. You know how many friends he has that could come around him? Not many. People call him weird. People call him weird. See, look, my man is saying, my friends don't understand me. That's good. And the thing is, they're trying to get you in a box. Because one thing I notice about people, and I'm sorry for going on long, guys, but I got to get this out because this is some good information. One thing I notice about people, they're in a silent competition with you. I'm not saying all, but a lot of people don't want to see you succeed, and they won't tell you that. It's a secret. And you could look at them and find it out. How? They would start, because here's what I notice about people. Like, they'll start off as your friend. They'll start off with the conversation like, hey, what do you do? Blah, 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 blah. Then after that, they'll show up and be like, they'll try to find something that you do that's weird and make fun of it. And then before you know it, if you don't check them at that point, they just keep doing it. Keep doing it. Then all of a sudden, all the focus becomes on you. Then when you start making mistakes, they'll pounce on them. Oh, you made the mistakes. But they don't understand that the average millionaire has failed 17 to 18 times. The person that rushes toward mistakes actually wins because you can adjust yourself and become better. AKA walking, AKA riding a bike. If you are dodging mistakes like the employee mindset, you will never grow. Because you have to make a mistake in order to move to the next level. Most people don't comprehend that. This is why you have people that when 10 years happens, they're the same people. You've changed. You're supposed to change. If you are on a mission to become your higher self, you're supposed to change, idiot. I hope you guys have comprehended what I'm saying. Because we're living in a world that is confusing. We're living in a world where everybody thinks that if a majority of people are thinking that somehow is right. But remember the statistic. 3% of people control a majority of all the money. There's no accident why those 3% of people are doing it. There's something that they're doing. Could it be that Warren Buffett is reading 500 pages a day? Could it be that they fall in this weird category? When most people are asleep, they're waking up at 4:30 in the morning. Like, I've gotten to the point now where I practice so much, I can literally get up at 3:30 in the morning and not even have a negative feeling at all. Not even feel like, why am I up at 3:30 in the morning? Because I love being up at 3:30 in the morning because I can now have the opportunity to make myself better. I could say, man, I can get some meditation in. Man, I can get some affirmation in. Man, I can get a jump start on my freaking to-do list. Man, I need to understand this funnel. That's why I'm doing it. Keep this in mind, people. If you're weird, it's probably a good thing. Elevate yourself. Constantly be on a mission to become a better version of yourself. Take care.